Many businesses hit a plateau. They're working harder, scaling faster, but still feel stuck. Why? Because they focus on revenue instead of profit, cash flow, and execution. Meet Herb, a seasoned entrepreneur, growth advisor, and coach with 35 years of experience helping businesses break through their limits. Herb has guided companies to double cash flow, triple profitability, and significantly increase their valuations. He's not just a coach, he's a scaling expert who has been in the trenches and knows what it takes to grow a business without the drama. Herb has worked with countless businesses to uncover the exact levers for growth. As he says,
Growth sucks cash. You can work really hard, but why work really hard to scale your revenue and have no profit or no cash in the bottom line?
Herb's proven strategies has helped companies unlock millions in profit by focusing on key areas like pricing, execution, and cash flow. In this video, Herb shares the 4 key decisions every business must master to scale.
People, strategy, execution, cash.
How adjusting price
1% increased our profitability over $1 million in the first year.
why working harder won't work, and how to scale with clarity and focus. How to build a culture of
Accountability.
to reduce turnover and grow sustainably. Feeling stuck doesn't mean you failed. It means it's time to shift your focus. Ready to uncover the levers that drive real growth and profitability? Watch now. What are the 4 decisions that businesses need to master for scaling up, and how can founders apply these principles to tech startups?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me on your show. It is a pleasure to be here and really excited to share some of the experience and knowledge that I've had in my 35 years in business. But I see 4 very important things that we have to get right in scaling up a tech or any traditional business. Number one is our people. A lot of companies, when they're growing, feel drama because we don't have the right people in the right seats doing the right thing. But not only employees, but we don't have the right clients. Maybe we take clients in the beginning that are not the ideal fit because we want to get revenue. Maybe we don't have the right partner or supplier, and therefore we're feeling drama. The second is strategy. When our revenue and our gross margin aren't growing at the levels we need to, that typically means we don't have the right strategy in the right marketplace. And then we have execution. You can work really hard. You can scale your top line, but why work really hard to scale your revenue and have no profit or no cash in the bottom line? And so that's execution decisions. And the final decision we have to get right is around cash. And not only cash to keep your business open, but opportunity cash. Can I hire that great executive that's finally available? I always wanted to add him to my team, but I can't afford him. Or that acquisition that popped up that would be a perfect fit for our next level growth, but we can't fund it. So people, strategy, execution, and cash, those decisions as we evolve are going to play a major role in how smooth and how great your scale is going to be.
Definitely. I think those are very key factors. How do you ensure that you get these things right from the get go?
I don't know if you can ever ensure you get all of it, Panita, but I think what happens is 1 or 2 of them become prominent gaps in the beginning of your journey. In my journey, the big gap in the beginning was people. We had too much turnover. We were not hiring the A players that we should have. Our culture, we had core values, but they weren't really clear. We didn't live by them consistently because nobody knew what they were. And we didn't hire by them to make sure that we'd have people working together in synergy. So the lack of understood culture, the lack of a defined purpose to give you the energy and inspiration to want to work through the hard teams, and the inability to hire the right people and put them in the right seat. That was my first level challenge. And if I could go back and do it again, which I have in subsequent companies, I would have those established in the beginning versus waiting 20 years to get started.
There is a way to get it right, but most of the time you would have to make these mistakes first to realize what the right thing is, right?
What's beautiful about what I do is that in the beginning, I didn't have a coach. And what I've learned is really successful people have a coach who's been there, done that. And I don't know, sometimes as a business owner, your ego's, oh, I don't need a coach. I'm smart enough and I went to a good school and I work my tail off. But you need outside perspective. And if I was going to do something differently again as well, it took me a while before I got my first business coach, somebody who had been there and done that, and that wasn't afraid to tell the CEO what they needed to work on because the CEO may not have built $100 million whatever company before. And so this is really helpful to be open-minded, the ability to accept constructive feedback from other people, and the ability to accept that and give that to your people that work for you. So I would recommend, and quite frankly, when our companies exited some years ago, I became a coach because I saw how powerful it was in helping other companies and leadership teams go through drama and scale a lot quicker.
So the secret sauce is to get a coach early.
Yeah, find the coach that's right for you, that really you have similar values. For me as a coach, I can only work with a company that I'm really connected to their purpose and where they want to take the company. If I don't feel like it's purposeful, that it's going to make a difference, that we're going to work with people in a way that's really productive and inspiring, then that's not a good fit for me. So you'll go through that journey of what's the right fit. And I use the scaling up performance platform. Think of sales having a playbook. So you have a sales playbook, how we go to market, how we train. Most companies don't know that they need a growth operating system playbook. And that's the one that I help executive teams by coaching them to implement the growth playbook to scale quicker and with less drama.
That sounds excellent. So you've helped companies double cash flow and triple product profitability.
Yeah.
What are the key financial metrics that tech founders should focus on to drive sustainable growth?
Yeah. So we use something called the power of one. And within that power of one, there are 7 levers that really, in our mind, help make a big difference on your cash growth, your profit growth, and the valuation of your company. So we're working with owners who day to day are focused on cash and profit. But at the end of the day, what I want to help them do is build the valuation of their company. They're working really hard. They've invested a lot. They take 100% of the risk. The upside's got to be worth it. And quite frankly, that's in the valuation. So the 7 levers that help us with cash, profit, and valuation are: number 1, price; number 2, volume; number 3, cost of goods; number 4, overhead; number 5, accounts payable; number 6, accounts receivable. And then for those of you in production business, manufacturing, that would be inventory days. And for those of services, you may be work in process. But mostly those are the 7. Every company is different. And when I first meet them, we do a assessment of their last several year financial history, and we uncover for their particular business which lever, if we moved it one day, 1%, would have the biggest impact.
So it's very specific to the particular company. So do you have any examples where you moved one lever and it made a measurable difference?
Yet in my company, actually, when we were scaling up one of the businesses that we had grown, I had never looked at pricing as closely as I should have. In school, I took a sales course, I took an accounting course, I took a manufacturing operations course, but there weren't many courses on pricing. So I'm looking at the levers, and it told me if I increase price 1%, it would have a $30,000 impact. But if I increased volume 1%, it would only be $5,000 impact. So if I had a choice, which one would you increase 1%? Price. And then I started doing the math about if I increase price, what if I lose clients? I don't want to lose clients. So then I found out I would have to increase price 30% to lose more than 10% of my customers. And I said, number one, I'm not going to increase it 30%. And number two, I know 20% of my customers aren't going to leave on a 1% increase. The moral of the story is I played with those different levers. At the end of the day, we increased our profitability over $1 million in the first year by getting the pricing levers right. Product pricing, program pricing, unbundled, bundled pricing. We looked at everything, but that was the net impact. And if you have a multiple of, let's say, 6, 5, 6, 7, that's almost a $5 to $7 million increase in the valuation of my company.
So it's choosing the correct lever for that particular company, and yeah, also playing around with price. That's very interesting because if you're able to look at the maximum amount where you would lose customers, then you can just, if you increase just a bit, then it wouldn't have
Yes.
much of an impact.
Yeah. The other thing is you'll notice over time, the levers will change. Like one particular quarter or year, pricing was a big deal. But then we improved it. Then I did it again. And then it was cost of goods and overhead. And then the team worked on those separately. And then we increased cash and cash and profit even more. So it's this ongoing evolution, iteration within the 7 levers with the leadership team that makes them so powerful for your company.
Definitely. So always experimenting. Over time, those levers will change. So how can non-tech founders leverage digital tools and automations to improve execution and streamline business operations?
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in keeping things simple. But when you say execution, that is one of the biggest challenges I see scaling up companies have. They have good people, smart people, hardworking people, but execution is so much more than that. So keeping it simple, I want to leverage technology in my dashboards. Does every employee know their metrics or KPIs that will drive execution impact in their job? And once every employee, every department knows that KPI metric that's important, do you have electronic dashboards that are visible by everyone, that are tracked daily, whenever possible, and reviewed minimally weekly for what the health of the metric is and what are we doing to improve it when it's not good. So people don't have enough dashboards. They don't have the data to make it current, and they don't spend the time to review and monitor the, the progress, and then people's accountability to get the progress is very important. But that would be the one thing I would do: get the dashboards and get the data and work on it together.
So measuring performance, definitely, and ensuring that we're following the main things that will move the company forward. So what role does data play in scaling up a company, and how can founders use it to make smarter strategic decisions?
Honestly, I think it goes back to two things. Number one is execution, like we just talked about. The other one, Panita, is strategy. Because think of data. I'm getting data and I want to know about the marketplace. The marketplace is very dynamic, new competitors, other entrants, different products. And I look to get data in a variety of places, but two main areas. Number one, client data. How am I collecting data about my clients, the products they're ordering, the frequency they're ordering, how we're delivering to them on time? Do we have enough stock? All these things are very important. The second place I get it is from the employees, because the employees are closest to the market and the client. So I want to give you, again, one simple survey to do with your employees and your clients. You can do it once a month, once a quarter, twice a year. But what should the company start doing? What should the company stop doing? And what should our company keep doing? And if you ask both of those groups that question only, you'll get good information.
So making sure you ask the right questions. Yeah, because I realized that it's very important, because I was just reading a book on how to talk to customers, and they're saying that if you ask the wrong questions, you it really just gonna get perhaps like just pleasing words rather than anything that is impactful.
Yes. Yeah. And keeping it simple, because they don't have a lot of time. So if we could only do one thing, what should our company start doing to serve you better? And
Definitely.
you'll collect that data over time and you'll review it and you'll see a trend. Maybe they want your software to be more user friendly. Maybe they want the software to have access to more documentation. Maybe they want the software to have fewer bugs because for some reason it's not working all the time. Or maybe you don't have comprehensive enough reporting tools within the platform. But very important that you listen. And I think your listeners will get a lot of benefit by doing that over time.
Definitely. So, in your experience, what's the biggest mistakes that founders make when implementing the Rockefeller habits, and how can they avoid them?
Ooh, how much time do you have?
It depends.
Yeah, scaling up a company correctly takes time. And a lot of founders are not as patient. And I understand you have cash and cash is burning and you have investors, but it doesn't happen overnight. So you need to be thinking of the company as running a marathon, not trying to win a sprint. And up in our head, we're running a sprint. And so, number one, we need to be more patient. Number two, how committed are you to scaling? Now, a lot of companies that I work with, Panita, are not startup companies in year one. They typically have reached $1 million in US revenue, and then they're trying to scale even further to 5, 50, 100 million and beyond. they underestimate the commitment it will take to implement the scaling up performance platform. And anything worthwhile is not easy. We can make it easier, but it's not easy. So, commitment, discipline, patience. And then the final one I wrote was focus. Because as a CEO, we are guilty of shiny objects. I like this project today. I heard of another project. I like that project tomorrow. And I keep switching everybody in the company around to do too many things. So for you to be successful, you have to also appreciate focusing on a few things that are the most important. And that will help you in your scale success.
Definitely. But I, I think there's also a concept of pivoting. And how do you know if your focus should pivot at some point
Yeah.
due to perhaps external trends?
Yeah. If you look at your data and how do I say this? So if I'm in the software, if I'm in the tech business and I'm looking at my website lead generation and I'm looking at it weekly, monthly, quarterly, and then that is trending down, maybe 3% a week, 5% a month, but the trend is continuing down. And then I'm looking at my software orders, the number of new licenses that I'm subscribing, and that's going down, then I know something's happening in the market. Either competitors come in, my pricing may not be longer relevant. There could be a competitor. I could have lost a key part of my sales team, so my sales activity are not as good. But I'm looking at all that data, and then I'm saying to myself, when it goes from a blip to an actual trend, I need to consider a pivot at that point, and that's when we start to talk about moving.
So making sure that you make data-driven decisions.
Whenever possible, and too many of us do not. So we need to do that more.
Definitely. So how can tech startups build a culture of accountability and high performance from day one?
Number one, everyone should have a job scorecard. Have you heard of that before, Panina?
No.
So when you take a job, they normally give you a job description,
Mhm.
the title of your role, maybe some of the duties that you'll do. A job scorecard is a more enhanced job description, but it's very clear about accountability. What is the mission of this role? What are the accountabilities of the role? What are the metrics we're going to measure in the role that defines success? Weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually, for that person to be a really good A player. What are the competencies that they have to have? Professional skills, technical skills, core values that they need to have that are similar to mine if we're working together. That becomes how I advertise for the job because those people will be attracted to it. It also provides an interview guide. So when I interview candidates to match it, and then it finally becomes an onboarding checklist so that when I'm bringing people in, they're getting up to speed as soon as possible. So that's how I would approach it from day one.
So making sure that they know exactly what they need to do in a period of time, rather than just knowing what they need to know for the role.
Yeah, we overall as a company and industry, I feel like we need to do a better job at that. Bigger companies do a better job because they have more resources, larger HR departments to support a hiring manager, but smaller companies don't have that, and that creates drama.
Definitely. So with the rapid advancements in AI and other technologies, how should founders adjust their scaling strategies to stay competitive?
I think the one thing that I would tell a founder is that If you're not using AI tools now, start. Whether you're using the tool to improve parts of your business, whether it's administration, sales, every company is putting AI as part of their tools. I know Salesforce has it, Adobe has it, you have ChatGPT, Perplexity. But what you're going to find out is once you start using them in various departments, that you're going to find applications of AI that will make you more efficient and add more value to the client. And think of two things. Number one is product development. How can AI accelerate product development and go to market ideas? Because that's important. And number two, internally, I want you to think of lean. Lean practices are anything you're doing that a client would not find value in is waste. So, how can AI eliminate more waste from what your team is doing inside the company? Because clients don't want to pay for it, and it will make you more efficient when you get rid of it.
So anything that is not the key task that humans do best should be automated, essentially.
Yeah, but I think you need to go through a journey of starting to use the tool to see what's best for you. So for me, writing a lot of client letters, I can accelerate how long it takes me to do that. And all I need to do now is review it and just refine it. So something that may have taken me 20 minutes, I do now in 3 minutes. And yet it's equally as good. And I've reviewed it. And yet I can work on the client's work even more because more of my time is now available to do that.
Definitely. I think you're right that it depends on your own workflow. So it's better to just test out all these different tools and see what works for you. So looking back on your journey as a CEO and a growth advisor, what was the most challenging barrier that you faced in scaling up and how did you overcome it?
In the beginning, for me, it was people. We were in the services industry in our first company, and turnover was a problem. And every time you have turnover in a service industry, your clients get impacted because they used to work with Panita and now Panita's not here. And now they're going to work with Herb and now Herb's not here. And that's not a good, you cannot scale an environment that has that much turnover. So in the beginning, it was people. We uncovered our values. We defined our purpose. We hired and onboarded and lived to it, and that got better. The following year, it was strategy. Our industry was very competitive and it was becoming commoditized. So we needed to pivot product offerings that were valuable and unique in the industry. And we spent the next year in product service development and pivoting the company to markets that were growing, that were healthy with good margins, that people valued. And then several years after, we were growing so quickly, it was cash because growth sucks cash. So you will deal with every one of the four in your journey, but they're normally part of a evolution of your company.
Definitely. I think you're right. Hiring definitely does start first, and it's one of the most key skills that founders can have.
Yes.
So, how can you balance the demands of rapid growth with maintaining work life harmony, especially as a leader?
I think we tend to do more than we need to. And I think when we want to do, I'll give you an example. When we look at planning for the quarter, you may have 5, 10, 15 different projects priorities, and that you're juggling them. And it creates a lot of drama, which means you have to work a lot of hours, and that creates imbalance in work and at home. But what I've learned is if I pick fewer things to focus on, but they're very impactful, I can have more work-life balance and my results will be as good or better. So fewer things that are more important with more focus gives me more balance. And when you have more time off away from the office, you become a better thinker because it's hard to be a deep thinker when you're in the middle of a lot of intense work. So allowing your brain and your mind to settle and rest is when you're going to get your next best idea.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. So focusing on impactful work and being very focused on those, and also, yeah, the best ideas always come when you're in a relaxed state rather than
Yes.
when you're too focused on the problem. So you've helped businesses achieve remarkable growth, but what drives you personally to keep pushing for more year after year?
Yeah, my purpose is all about scaling leaders and companies' potential. You may look at a company and you might say, that's a small company. They've been around 5 years. They're good people. I look at a company and I'm like, I see $1 billion company when I talk to that owner and their leadership team. I see their passion. I see how they're trying to make a difference. I see the product potential. And that potential is what helps me to do what I do and gives me the energy to want to do it more and more. The second thing is my values. So, wisdom is a very important value for me. And so I have this appetite to want to keep learning, but sharing that wisdom with others. And I can only do that to the degree of impact I want through coaching. And so my purpose and my values are what keep me doing what I do.
I think that is awesome. And I think that is a great note to finish this podcast on. I'm sure our audience will really resonate with your values and yeah, and how you look at companies for their potential rather than only where they are and looking at the leadership team. But yeah, thank you so much, Herb, for being a guest on the show today.
You are very welcome, Panita. And I wish your listeners all the best. And if you need to get a hold of me, just please check out my website. I have a free, if you want to discover your business scaling up readiness score, feel free to go onto the website Aspire Growth Advisors with an S.com. Check out the assessment, and I'm happy to have a coaching conversation to see how that may help you in the next step of your business growth. And just thank you for your time.
Thank you.